Hey y'all, just want to share with y'all a project I've been working on for the last couple of months, and that was to build a turntable. As a kid from the 80s, I always loved turntables and records, and was pretty sad to see this format take a backseat or die in the early 90s and 2000s. But it's been rediscovered, and as a result it has helped me to rediscover my love for this format as well. So I decided to build a turntable. This turntable is specifically made to play 45 records or 7-inch discs. And yes, I realize that it's not a very popular format, but I do think it's an interesting format, and I just want to see if I could do it. And a little bit about my process. I did start off with research on turntable geometry, and eventually that led to me drawing out the turntable, the look and dimensions of the turntable, and eventually I started then building the tone arm. The tone arm is built with a combination of 3D printed parts and aluminum tubing. It does have a counterweight, bearings, and a variety of those parts to help it function fairly smoothly. Of course, there was a fair amount of trial and error to get the tone arm parts to work. I have a whole bag of 3D printed parts that did not work out, but I was happy with the final result, and the tone arm seems to work pretty well. Eventually then I built my first test plinth, which was just to test the parts, and once I was able to test the tone arm and various parts and felt like they seemed to work pretty well, I then built the official plinth out of MDF and veneer, oak veneer that's been stained and varnished. And I think it turned out pretty sharp, pretty happy with that. The platter is built out of a manufactured wood product that is cut with a router with a circle making jig, and again, just like the tone arm, a fair amount of trial and error and several duds, so to speak, on those cuts that just didn't quite work out. But this finally did work out to be a nice, even, symmetrical disc that I eventually sanded, painted, and then added cork as a covering on the top. Electronically, I am using an official turntable motor. That's a belt-driven motor that defaults at 33 1/3 and can be wired to run also at 45. And it does have tuning knobs at the bottom of the motor that you can fine-tune the speed, and it does hold the speed pretty well. After I test the speed, it seems to hold it fairly well when it's running. The inputs in the back are just traditional RCA inputs, left and right, of course, stereo inputs, and a place for a grounding wire, and a switch on the back for the speed control for 33 and 45, and of course a power input. I do have a button on the top, or a switch on the top that I use as an on-off switch that allows me to stop the platter easily whenever I'm changing out records and things of that nature. Lastly, I did add some feet at the bottom, and it does have some cushion or dampening ability. I probably will redesign that so it's a little more spring action or dampening for the feet. But overall, this turntable surprisingly plays really well, and it sounds pretty good, I think. And if I'm able to play a sample, YouTube rules, I will try to see if I can do a video that will play a sample to show you that the turntable works pretty well. Thank you for watching my video, and hope you like my project.